we know that wherever we focus our energy, that's what we're going to attract. So if we are chasing all fear and all this stuff, then you'll probably end up with a very complicated birth. So like you're saying, get yourself empowered and like be around people that are supporting your vision, because it can be done.
Welcome to Birth from Within, where inner wisdom meets grounded preparation. We're here to share raw, real birth stories and offer the insight and tools you need to move through the system with courage, clarity, and authority. You were made for this. Your body knows what to do. This podcast is the heart work of a nurse, a naturopath, and a perinatal chiropractor. Women who have walked our own birth journeys, and now we walk beside you. In each episode, we share practical tools, grounded wisdom, and deep reverence for your body's design. You deserve a birth that honors your strength, your voice, and your vision, where your power is remembered and your intuition is honored. Let's return to the root, because birth doesn't start in a delivery room, birth starts from within. Welcome back, everyone. We're so excited to be here today to be talking about building your birth team.
Building your birth team. Such an important thing, and one of the first things that you're gonna think about, right?
Yes, absolutely. A good way to think about this is if you planned a wedding, you have to pick out so many vendors, right? Maybe a planner, and if not, you still have so many florists, photographers, so many people that are gonna be there on your day that you wanna vibe with, that you wanna like their work, and you're putting in so much thought and intention into that for a really big day. And I feel like that's a good analogy for how you wanna think about building your team for birth. And maybe even realize it's even more important, because you're not going to be dressed up looking your very best on the most like curated day of your life. You're going to be at your rawest and most vulnerable with the most unknowns, and you want to be in the hands of people that are going to help you achieve an experience that you can be proud of and that aligns with your values, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a day that is so important that it is not going to come back. You only have one shot.
Only one shot.
So you are in the wedding business. How long do you usually recommend like people start preparing?
I feel like it ranges from like 6 months to 2 years.
Yes.
And if people are rushing in 6 months, it's an insane experience. But most people give like a year to 2 to plan that day. Okay. So we know we're on the clock of 9 months. So maybe it's one of those things you can start thinking about before you're pregnant. Very first, you're the main attraction. You are the person, and you have everything you need right away between you and your baby. That's all you need to give birth. So starting there, realizing like, okay, at the very least, I am capable and equipped with everything I could need, not adding any other people.
Yep.
Which is pretty epic. And some people choose that. So, right off the bat, that is an option, but it's always good to go back in your head of like, anywhere, anytime, me and my baby, like that's it.
So it sounds a little crazy what you're saying, but just for people to know, like people that have chosen a unassisted birth, they're also getting education. They're also going, right? Like
that's a great point.
Seeing like what are the providers, if you will, that are supporting this, and then you get some preparation still if you're gonna do it unassisted. It's not like just maybe, you still need preparation. So just so you know, you can do it yourself.
But then to add, probably the first and most obvious person is going to be your partner, your husband, your baby daddy. They're likely going to be at the birth, and so I feel like it's a good thing to ask yourself, how involved will they be? Do they bring in empowerment? Do they empower me? Do I feel safe, like very safe with them? I hope, but those are questions to ask. And will I be able to let my hair down? Like, can I be completely relaxed and in my rawest state? And are they like tender? Or they learn with you? Or are they going to be like, a lot of people want to maybe hand it off and have a lot of fear, and a lot of that is related to lack of education and how birth is portrayed, and that's all. If that's all they have, if they're bringing that in, that's probably not going to be your biggest crutch to lean on, I would say. But it's you and your spouse talking about like, what do we want this to look like, and what's our
I mean, and for you too, right? Like, do you like how your husband will touch you? Do you like how your husband, like you're saying, how involved, how much support do you think your husband or your birth partner will be? Because if it's not him, there is a bunch of people that can be part of your birth team.
And another thing that you'll need, no matter where you go, is somebody to be your voice. And are they going to be educated enough to be your voice? And so it's looking at what role will they play, because they're person one to some degree, depending on what you want. So you can talk about your husband as well. My husband, I knew that he was going to be like my core person. He's the one person I needed that I knew as long as I had him, I would be okay. I would feel like at home. But I also knew that like back massages and pressure points are not his greatest strength, and he has a lot of strengths. But I was like, in labor, I just don't know that he will be able to give me the support that I would like to have available to me. And so we were like, okay, that begets the next person. Whereas for you,
well, what is him?
He was your person.
He was my person, yes. And the first time we didn't train a lot, and it was a pretty big mess. So this is what we're doing next. So that again, education, preparation is so vital. But then the next time we were like, okay, we need to get prepared.
Let's get more in sync. Set your expectations for what you want him to do and to help him be empowered, because then he's going to bring a lot more to the table.
And he's going to feel like, okay, I can do this and I'm useful.
And not just like, oh, what's happening? I'm scared. Not passing out.
With me, while we were in birth, in that unprepared birth, in my head I was like, why is he not taking picture? Why is he not holding my hand? Why is he not putting pressure? Like, I thought like he would know how to do all this stuff, and I was so bad.
Yes. So that's biggest lesson, and they can't read your mind.
Yes.
And I know that it's unknown. You don't necessarily know what you'll want them to do, but I think you can have an idea of like, well, I want him cheering me on. Like, we even went through a list of what's helpful for him to say, because I'm like, there are things that if you say them, I will feel patronized and annoyed instead of empowered. So we went through, here's a list of things that I think would help me stay in the moment, help me feel empowered and not like eye roll.
Do you have an example of
like, you're doing awesome, you never have to do that contraction again? Affirmations that weren't like, one thing he said one time is like, you're so close, and I'm like, that is not helpful because you don't know that I'm so close. And then it made me like mad. You can find affirmation lists, and there were just some things that I'm like, if you said that, I'll be so like, don't say that.
Me too. I remember seeing when we were preparing, the video was saying, oh, ask your wife, how is she doing? And I'm like, if I am pregnant and going through contractions, I'm gonna be in pain.
Yes.
So don't even ask me.
That's the perfect. Yeah. Don't ask how I am. No. I am in labor. Look at me. Listen to me. So it was more like, hey, do you want water or ice chips? Like, that equipped him to be able to know, like, ask this or this, or if we have to move positions. You know, and also never making it about him if you're in labor. That's also why I wanted him to have space to support if he needed to step out, but you don't want to hear like, I'm so tired, or like, I was leaning on him so much too. So later I remember him saying he was sore because I was putting so much pressure on him, but he did a great job not making it about, my arms are a little tired.
Well, guys, listen to this. You're gonna be sore, and it's okay.
Yes, yeah, I guarantee you it's not comparing to what your wife is experiencing.
Yes.
So yes, working through together as a team. Do you want him to take pictures? And so for me, I wanted him to be there with me, and so we knew we wanted a separate person.
I was like, I don't know what was going on, because I wanted him to be my doula, my photographer, everything.
You have a lot of work to do, mister. But also they get, you know, it's a long time, so they could probably get a little of everything. You know, if they're walking out for something, come back in and just snap the moment.
Yeah, but be realistic and know your
don't put too much expectations on them. Yes. So to help them out, the next person that is underutilized, I would say, but is such a key, like a game changer in the birth world, is a doula. And a doula can be the support person of your spouse. And that is huge, because like we're saying, they might be tired, they might be uncomfortable, they might not be able to help you as much. And it's their first time too, whereas a doula has been to a lot of births, and a doula is literally just there to be your advocate and your support. Yeah. And so they also provide a lot of education. And so I say them before even the provider, because they've been to so many births and worked with so many people. So they're going to be able to give you a lot of insight into like, here's how this hospital operates, or this provider, or this midwife. And it's going to give you a lot more to work with as far as somebody that's seen a lot of different experiences.
Yes. To clarify, let's talk about what a doula is, because there's a lot of people that doula, midwife, is that the one who delivers your baby? Like, really, what a doula is?
It's an emotional support educator, and probably a varying degree on what they offer. Some are maybe massage therapists or no pressure point to help you in labor, so just kind of like a pain management tool. They know a lot about positions. I feel like they're just gonna help hold you or hold your spouse. So I remember not knowing if I wanted a doula, but we had friends that had said like, the doula was such a support to their husband, who was their primary person, but they'd had a long labor. So he was exhausted at points, or needed to eat or go to the bathroom. Like, he's still a human being that has needs, even if they're not quite as important as mine moment, right? And so it allowed him the space to step out of the scene and me not be abandoned or feel like afraid or alone. And so I feel like they can be like anything.
So basically they are emotional, physical support
and mental,
educational
knowledge,
too, like a lot of resources during your pregnancy, support for your husband or partner, obviously support for the birth person, but they are not catching the baby. That's like the biggest thing. It's like they're all with you.
Yes.
Nothing with, right, like they're not.
My second baby, the midwife didn't make it, so my doula actually did step in to be a very big part of my delivery. But yes, standard, that's not their role. Yes. And they're there, yes, as more of a standoff support. Like, very involved, but not the medically trained person to handle different things.
Yeah. And there are different type of doulas, because there are birth doulas that only will go to your birth. There are postpartum doulas that then these are the ones that are helping you after giving birth. Yeah. And then full spectrum doulas, that is like, I do your preconception, your birth, your postpartum, and everything in between.
Yes. That's a great point. And a lot of times with the doula, they'll have a backup as well. So that's a good question to ask them, because that might be two people you want to make sure you vibe with and feel trusting with. Because one thing we didn't mention is why it matters so much to build your birth team is that every person there is going to impact the experience, because the energy, the fear, the unknown all
play together in how successful or how positive your experience is going to be. You don't want people around you like, oh, you can't do this, or are you sure you're gonna? No, I mean, at least for me, I want somebody to empower me, to guide me to, yes, we're doing great, let's keep going, like that side. So that's one thing that I always say. Meet a lot. There's so many doulas. Like, go and interview a couple and see who are you matching with, right? Like, who you're vibing with, because that's going to be important.
Absolutely. And if you have a friend that's used them, that's helpful too, to be like, how are they with the experience? I think both of those things, because word of mouth is
very valuable.
Yes, very valuable.
Yes. And then know what they offer, right? Because there's some that will offer childbirth education, pictures, postpartum or birth pictures.
Yeah, they can offer a lot in one person.
Yes.
And so I really wanted an intimate birth team. So with my first baby, I had a doula that was also a photographer, and that was huge to me, because instead of bringing in two bodies to the space that I wanted no bodies, it was one. And so I felt like that was a good balance, where it was more like she was there in case, because I had my husband, and then could also capture the birth, but it's like, how many pictures do you need? But knowing also if you want the birth captured, and that's something more down the road, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the most important decision, but if you do want that, that's something else you might possibly be aware of that's in your head. And so you just want to be careful, like, is that going to affect my mental space? Worrying about where I'm at or different stuff. And if it is, then maybe that's not something great for you. And maybe it's husband snapping a few pictures, or knowing like, do you want that documented? And I would say to some extent you do. You want something.
Yes. I would go back and have videos for all of my babies.
You have full documentaries.
Oh my God, yes. Because I mean, till this day, I still watch all the pictures and the videos, the ones that I had, not professional ones, but like still, it's such a moment of empowerment of, wow, I did this. So yes, I will for 100% videos.
And it's a literal miracle, your experience, like a literal miracle. And to be able to have that on a video and watch that you're like a soul come into the world is so wildly epic.
Yes, it's amazing. So who's next?
Probably the provider.
Now the provider.
So that's a big one.
Now this depends on where you are at, right? Who are your friends? Who are your people near you? Because now you're like in that moment of, do I go to a hospital? Do I stay at home? Do I choose a birth center? So what are the providers there?
I think you're right. You need to step back and say, what do I want this to look like? And we know it's very few people that are off the bat, I want to be home. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to go into a hospital. Because they feel maybe that it's safer if something goes wrong. Yes. Whereas is it the hospital that sometimes begets that cascade, yes. Especially with the first baby. However, you do need to know, like, if you're very stressed or fearful, then home probably isn't the best place for your first baby, but getting educated will help you decide.
So then I would say whatever you feel more comfortable, right?
Yeah.
If you have like white coat syndrome, you don't want to be in the hospital.
Yes.
And then if you're like, oh my God, what, something happened in my bedroom, then you don't want to be at home too. So it's really being truthful to yourself. Where do you envision this birth?
And a birth center, a lot of times, is a good middle ground for people, I think, because it feels like a more autonomous route, like more peaceful, less medical intervention, but you're not at home, so it feels like that next step. It is just important to know, like, from there can be transfers, like they're still under a system managing them. Even home birth midwives, if you're working with a provider, they have regulations in place they have to abide by, right? Mm-hmm. So like a midwife, let's start there. That is only midwives, and I think a really important thing there is seeing the space, because you have a good example.
Yes. Again, this is why I say interview, go see the place, because that's the other thing. If you're going to a birth center, then go visit that birth center and see again. Ask yourself, do I feel safe giving birth
and comfortable?
Here? Is this like what I'm envisioning? Because you can be surprised of the birth centers that are around your place. Go and visit birth centers and know that even midwife, there are different types, right? Because there are the midwife that will only do home births. Then there are the midwife that are going to be in a birth center. And then the midwife that are in the hospital, then those one are going to be working under an OBGYN. Mm-hmm. So again, it's like what type of midwife, if you want to go into the more laying low, less intervention, kind of more natural mentality, what kind of midwife do you want to?
The point of going to visit it is also important, because how long is the drive? So some people, unfortunately, it's not an option unless you went and stayed somewhere else. Like a lot of places sadly don't have that available to them. And so looking at what is the commute like, because if it's over an hour or beyond that, it probably isn't feasible or realistic, likely. And so that is a huge factor. The same with the hospital. How far away is that space? Because when you're deciding to go, most people won't even admit you too early, and that's actually a huge decider in the outcome of interventions, how early you go. And so if you're waiting until later labor, where are you driving and how long are you going to be in the car are really important factors, for sure.
Yeah.
And then hospitals, you can go, like, I feel like a lot of people default to an OB. So the most common choice is obviously an OB, and you might love an OB, but I think it's important to remember they're part of a team. And so really good things to consider: how many people are on the team? Will you meet all of them before having a baby? A lot of times they'll rotate care prenatally and realize, okay, I probably will be meeting somebody for the first or second time with my baby, even if I like this one provider. And then that's where you have to go, like, knowing that at the end of your pregnancy, that's where so many factors will come into play of how late will they, quotes, let you go. There's a lot more of a what will they let me do mentality, whereas midwives tend to be a lot more
like you feel them on your team, not separate from
and they're
you.
Educating you and asking you what you want. So it's a more woman-led care experiences, where OBs usually it's like you are put into the funnel system and here's what happens at every certain milestone. But then you're going to have different providers that won't let you go past 40 weeks. Or so it's like they're going to be pushing an induction. And so a lot of women go past their due date, but you're still
more than half. Yeah.
So,
and first time or even more.
Yeah. So then if they're only let women go to 40 weeks, that's going to be a lot of pressure, very likely, like over a 50% chance. So asking them, at what point do you pressure an induction? What is your C-section rate? And it's important to know, like, OBs are surgeons, so how common.
And a lot of them love to do surgery.
Yes, like how quickly and what are the reasons? Because it's easy to say, like, oh, it was a medical emergency, but the true medical emergencies are very, very, very low percent. And so there's so many other factors that play into.
There is also a link, like they rate their hospital, so you can go and check what is your C-section rate of the hospital that you're wanting to birth to.
Yeah, so start there, regardless of what the provider says. And so if you're not wanting a C-section and you go to a hospital that has a 30 to 40% of a C-section rate, that is much higher than even the national average or what is advised, and then you go to home birth midwives who maybe have a I don't know,
2%.
EMA at least, I know, as like a gold standard, how I think of 2%. And so that will play into your odds of your birth experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. And then all the questions, right? Like you mentioned some of the questions to ask your provider, but then I still would go back, if you're hiring a doula, go back to your doula and review this provider say this, how true this is.
Yes. It's also great to think about how comfortable you are with a man. So for me, I knew I did not want a man aside from my husband to be around for my birth. And whereas there are many OBs that are male, and so how many men are on the team, and that might not be a problem to you. You might be totally comfortable. It's just important to think about. Whereas like in the end, you're pushing, you might not care, but men are going to bring a different. They've never had a baby, they can't have a baby. It's just a very different.
They tend to be more like rougher, like
maybe medical, and that's you can go down that path. It's just looking at your comfort level and realizing like what % chance are there 2 men on that team. More, how do they treat you? Do they treat you like they're working for you? Because they are, but most are not going to treat you that way. And so those are all important things to suss out how you feel. And I think it's also great to know you can pivot. Like again, you're interviewing them, so you can start your prenatal calendar and be like, this is not the vibe, or I know more now, I don't want to be here. They're pressuring me every visit to do things that I don't align with.
Your voice matters, so you can say no.
So you can always say no.
Like you said, you can always change.
And that's different personalities. Some people can say no and there can be pushback, and that's okay. And other people, it makes you like for me, I'm like, if somebody's constantly pushing back and questioning what I feel confident in, that's going to make me feel like...
I mean, you're already going in stress to some, like if you stay there, what are the odds that your birth is going to be happy and good energy and I feel supported? No, you're going to feel constantly you're arguing with the provider that should be working for you, not.
Yeah, but isn't having that perspective. There are some amazing OBs. There are OBs that will empower you, that have low transfer rates, that fully support birth, but that's really a good question of like, if you want an unmedicated labor and don't want to be induced, you need to ask like, how many do you see? Do you see many women that don't have pain medicine or epidurals? Like, what is your rate? And so those are important questions going in. Like I worked at a hospital where I think it's at least 90%, 90 to 95% of women had epidurals. And so you're like going to those providers, you have a 5% chance of having the birth that you're going after. And so saying, we'll see how it feels when you're like, I have a 95% chance of giving in, that's not who you want in your corner.
Because when you are doing a contraction, you might want to say, give me whatever.
Yes. And if it's constantly, there's an option, you're just going to be like, yeah, it's too hard and give in. And that's not shame on that. It's just saying if you don't want that, you do have to put parameters in place to set yourself up. You either have to be 100% sure, and then that's where your doula and your spouse and whoever else is on your team can be a shield to be like, don't offer. Because they have to come, like they actually have to come in, and so they can kind of try to stop
and
that.
the same with Pitocin, and the same with the IV, right? Like with the same with any intervention that is in the hospital. So we're not completely against OBs, but know who you are gonna get into, because there are still ones that are old school and they follow rules how there is, and they're not gonna budge up, out of it. But there are other ones that are more, I guess, more modern, and they are more open into having, a different experience for women.
I think it was the Down to Birth podcast. They had said if they use failure to progress as a reason for a C-section, that should be a huge red flag, because they're like, failure to progress is not a real diagnosis, it's failure to be patient. And I thought that was really good, of like, you're going to be tired and you're going to be uncomfortable. Do you have people that are helping to like lift you up and to keep your mind sharp and knowing like, yes, this is a marathon, but I can do it, I am doing it.
Yes.
And that's the vibe that you want. And so even if you're, if you feel safest in a hospital, that's where you go back again to those first core people that are going to be there as that shield, as that voice, to help speak into that when you feel like, I can't do it, or it's too hard, and they're reminding you like, you can.
Yes.
Whereas at home or midwife center too, you don't have the epidural, or you're not being induced in the same way. They might do membrane sweeps, they might do some more intervention, but it's still a step back from what would be available to you in the hospital. I think usually nitrous oxide. Most midwife centers, that's like what they would have to offer you. Otherwise it's like natural pain management. Then you go a step further at home where you have even less, that you're like, okay, that's where the preparation is going to serve you well. What can I do to help move baby down? And also realize pain's not the enemy. But in a hospital where, especially if you're stuck to the bed, that's another huge question. Will you let me deliver not on my back?
Or even, can I walk? Can I move around in labor? Yeah.
Yes. And so if they won't let you move, eat, or get off your back, those are huge things to know. Like, okay, I'm going into a marathon where I'm not allowed to eat, and I'm gonna have to sit on my back where my pelvis is the smallest, and I'm so uncomfortable. And instead of being able to move, which movement helps so much in progression of labor and managing your comfort.
Yeah, no, and like even helping the baby keep going down.
And then pushing the baby out. And so, there's some providers that if you ask that question, there'll be pushback. And that's just kind of like, okay, I don't want to be afraid of that person walking in and then telling me I can't do something for how I'm birthing my child.
And then the other one is, which really this one we don't have control about it, but if you're going to be in the hospital, pray that you have a good nurse, because nurses too, some are like, Pitocin, you want Pitocin, you want Pitocin, maybe you need Pitocin, you want it. So some are not that good with that, but then there are other ones that are very like, I had somebody else that said the nurses that were in her hospital were having home births. So they were very open and like, oh,
they'd seen a physiological birth. Whereas so many places, like I remember having a friend that went in and she did have a unmedicated, no pain management birth. And there was a nurse that wanted to be there because she just wanted to see it. And you just think how many hundreds of births she's seen, but she'd never seen a woman give birth unmedicated. And she's like, I'm so curious, I'm so drawn to this. So then you also have extra bodies that can just like, you can technically kick them out, but that's just an example of, you have nurses, aides, nurses. And that's a good point too of like, prayer matters. And so praying for the team of the people and the energy that's going to walk in that room, and having people like your husband too be the front line. So if you do get someone that is
not aligning with you, then you know that you can also trust in your doula and your husband.
And you can, again, they're all working for you. So if you really don't vibe, have your husband say like, we need a different nurse. And they'll be changing, 8 to 12 hour shifts, usually 12 hours. So like at the end of a shift, you might love your nurse and then get somebody new. So just realizing there's a lot of change in there, and those are just good things to mentally be aware of.
That's gonna happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So different energy, different personalities, different value systems.
Another thing too, like to ask, can I bring, my lights, my oils, my ball, my stuff? Because even in a hospital, we could transform that area into more calm, better experience for you.
Yeah, so that too,
how open are they with all
less
this
sterile
stuff? Yes. I guess there are, but I haven't had a lot of people that say, oh no, my doctor didn't allow that. I always see lights and like the little dim lights and the smells and the music and because you can still transform your hospital.
And even, can I not wear a hospital gown? Because that makes you right away feel like I'm a patient, and birth is a different section of the hospital, whereas everyone else is a patient, and you are admitted as a patient in quotes, but you're not sick, you're not broken, you're not needing of aid, you're fully capable. And so there's different ways your energy and decisions can go in setting you up for people to honor and respect that.
And with midwife, same thing, right? Like you also want to interview midwives, because still there are midwives that are more open, I allow you to do whatever. There are other midwives that are still going more medical standard protocol. So
I say midwives, and a lot of times a hospital team, they are going to be more, they're closely tied to the OBs, and there are exceptions always, but you have to do the legwork to find out
who is who.
Yeah, and where do they stand.
Yes.
And so word of mouth will help you, but there's different people that will push more meds, and there's other ones like, I think even hearing your birth story was just, and my midwife too, it's like they're kind of there to observe. Really. They're not doing very much, which is wild. And they're kind of there, like maybe just in case or towards the end, but there's a lot of waiting. And you have a provider that will be...
Yeah, you want that is going to create the atmosphere that you're looking for. So that's like the main, right? The main core, like the most vital for your birth. We mentioned birth partner, doula, midwife, or OB.
And so then you have, we had mentioned photographer or videographer, and it's deciding, do you want a birth photographer? And there are people that specialize in that and will come to a hospital or come home for a certain amount of hours. And so I think just deciding if that's something you want to spend money on, and a person that you're okay having step into your birth. Then it's looking at who else I'll invite into the space, whether that's a mom, a sister, a friend, And sometimes that's
kids, cousin, everybody come.
Unless you're Ever Myra, the more the merrier, come see, which is great. So great for me. I didn't want anybody there just because for me it would get in my head and I just had to so protect my mental space. And I'm like, I don't want the opinion of anybody else to be a voice in my head. I don't want to be worried about the needs of other people. And so I want as few people as possible. And I love it that you are more like...
But I started with 2. First one was 2. My husband and me, like just in the
2
room.
people. Okay, yes.
And then it just kept growing. Yes. I mean, because for me, birth is such an amazing experience. Yeah. So I want my other kids to watch it, and I want my mom to watch it because she's never watched what is possible in a home birth, on a natural birth. Yeah. I wanted everybody to watch it so that we can keep having more home birth in my lineage, because that's something natural. That's something part of us. We are made for this.
I love it. And you see the confidence maybe that grows. You could believe, like, I can do this. I'm capable. I can do it. You can be invited into this. And it's so beautiful. Yeah. Having seen a few births, it's a life-changing thing to see. Like, it creates such a bond also with that child. And you just think about what a gift it is to the kids of all the people that saw them be born.
It might sound like, oh my God, so many people. But I can tell you that every time I was having a contraction, everybody was quiet. You could feel the energy shift. Even my little ones, the little one was 2. Everybody was so present, and like you could feel like it was almost like they were all helping me and like cheering me in their heads because of their faces. So it's not just everybody is talking. No, everybody is with you. Energy shift, and then after the contraction, okay, we can talk, we can smile, and then a contraction comes and everybody. So it could be very, I don't know, uplifting, and like
and you have so many people collectively for you, and that's what you want to make sure the people that are in your space,
that's what they do. Yes.
I think it's also very brave. I know you had said your mom was so afraid and had never seen it, but I think that's awesome that you were more like, I want to change your viewpoint by inviting you into this versus feeling like her fear was going to affect you. I think that's important too. It's like somebody bringing in fear that's going to be in your head and alter your mental state, because that matters. Or you just like, no, I'm doing it, now she can be part of it.
I told you, if you need to take a break, you go outside and you come.
You don't say anything to me about it. A person that may or maybe wouldn't be likely to be at your birth, but a part of your birth prep team to get you there is a chiropractor.
Prenatal.
You can tell us a little bit more about why you would see one. I feel like the main thing I heard is that it can help with positioning, to know the baby is head down, and that felt to me like anything I can do to help my baby be in the correct position feels like the right thing. So I was like, it can't hurt. Also, you're changing your body so much, so it felt like just kind of keeping you in alignment and helping you as your body's more pliable and has more fluid and more weight on it, all those things. So.
That's all good points, because yes, we do support the pregnancy in that sense, but also just know that chiropractic is always addressing the nervous system. That's your brain, that's your spinal cord, right? Like, that's the way that the body works and functions. So if you have a nervous system that is flowing, then you have good positioning, you have less stress, you can sleep better, and less nausea, like all the symptoms that it's more like when a light gets on in the car that there's something wrong. Those are symptoms for me. So once you start getting adjusted, you're like regulating your nervous system. And what better you want going in labor with that regulated nervous system, because then your uterus, like everything is connected. So your body knows when to push, when to let go, when you don't have like crazy contractions. So it's just for better communication, but also we address pain so you feel more comfortable. And then we do the Webster technique, and then that's to allow the baby to move and toss and turn however, because now he or she has more space. For me, obviously, I'm a prenatal chiropractor. It's like vital. You're pregnant, go and see one. That's more working your physical and your nervous system. But then there are other people, right? Like, you could have massage therapies, you can have pelvic floor therapies that now this is like a boom of, oh, now we're addressing the pelvic floor, which is so important. Yeah,
so important. I did not do it until after my first baby, and I remember that I was at the place where I was like, if I jumped rope and had to pee, you like start peeing a little, and then you hear like that's actually not normal, but it's so common. You shouldn't be peeing when you sneeze.
Yes,
and you can fix it with pelvic floor therapy, and so they are a vital and way underutilized piece that unfortunately isn't just included, like they should be just included in every birth team, but it's a really good one to seek out,
because pelvic floor will, like around 35-36 weeks, they're gonna check if there's tension, if there's weakness, what exercise you can do to, you know, to have good health of your pelvic floor. They also prep you for birth, so there's many that will give you breathing technique, and you know, it's just like our overall birth prep, and then you see them after you've given birth to know, okay, now how is this looking at, and what things we can improve.
Yes, as you're healing. And I remember, I did see them, I guess when I was pregnant with my second one, and I feel like I had exercises to do all the time, but it changed my life.
Yeah.
You're like, it's 10 minutes a day, but
yes,
it makes your quality of life so much higher.
Yeah,
That's really great.
Another ones are acupuncturists too. There are acupuncturists that will see pregnancy.
Did you see that? Did you do acupuncture?
I saw one at the beginning more for nausea.
Okay.
I tried a lot, not very successful.
No avail.
But they are available, and you can get acupuncture throughout your pregnancy. There's a lot that will be called, like, if mom is past due, which I don't like that, but if mom is past due, or if baby is breech, you know, other things that could come towards the end, you can also see an acupuncturist to help with that.
And Tulane, that's massage. I feel like for comfort, I know I did emotional release massage, and that she did pressure points that like on your feet.
Yeah.
And so there's different things people know that they say can start your labor. But I agree with you. It's like babies come when they want. So is it because of their pressure point, or is it because it's time?
Yeah, I mean, you could do all that to feel yourself, I'm doing something.
Yes.
But still, I believe the same. Babies come when they are ready. What else? Like physically, right? Because this is more, how can you support your body through pregnancy to stay active? Because really, movement is life. So you want to stay active and move. If it does like a yoga class, Pilates class, other things that to keep your body moving. Yes, those are
stretching and strength and
too.
All this stuff.
Who else do we have?
Breastfeeding.
So for breastfeeding, when then you have a lactation consultant. That's another different type of lactation consultants, because you have your IBCLC, that's like the top, that they have like a board exam and can treat different issues that come up with breastfeeding. Then you have your certified lactation consultant and your certified breastfeeding educator. There are different types of lactation consultants, but it's good to have it prenatal, because at least you can get like a breastfeeding class 101, how the milk is formed, what the first milk comes, how to position the baby, how to feed.
But it shouldn't be painful, but it's a lot of work, and it's natural, but doesn't come naturally. That's something in a hospital, a lot of times on staff, they'll have at least one, most hospitals, but you aren't guaranteed a lactation consultant. So sometimes you have to request it, but I think it's great to know that is an option for you. So even if it's going overall well, it's worth maybe saying, I would like to see the lactation consultant, because your postpartum nurses don't necessarily have extra education. Like I was postpartum nurse, and it's like I knew it through training and through patients, and I like built up my knowledge of breastfeeding, but you're like, I started as a new nurse at 22, didn't breastfeed a baby ever, like so far from it, and I learned a lot about how, but it was just so different than like the veteran nurses who were moms, or the ones that were lactation consultants that could bring a lot more to the table to really help.
Because also interventions in the hospital will mess up with your breastfeeding journey. So again, it's good to take a class, breastfeeding 101, and know all about breastfeeding before you get into breastfeeding. That was one of the things that helped me the most, or empowered me to breastfeed, because I didn't know how important, or all the benefit that it had for my baby and for myself. So once I was like, got all that information, I was like, I 100% want to breastfeed my baby until he wants to.
As long as possible. And that's so important in the prep work of the more you can find about what you want your birth to be, do I want it mostly undisturbed? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be there? Do I want to breastfeed? Do I not want an epidural? Do I not want a C-section? And if you know for sure, instead of like a, we'll see how it goes, that will change your experience too.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes is like, I'm giving my power away.
Yeah. Can you say everything else was working against you having that experience? Everything. The offering, the interventions, the more interventions are going to detract from that physiological birth. Everything that happens plays into the outcome of your birth. And then a lot of those interventions from epidurals and Pitocin and C-sections, yes, like you said, they make it more difficult after you have your baby. And so the longer you wait, the more likely it is that formula is introduced. And it's not saying it's the enemy, but that's when your milk is coming in on a supply and demand basis. And so it's so important to get that baby to breast. And like, is the baby sleepy, like extra sleepy because they have
fluids
drugs in their systems?
Yeah.
And so there's so many things at play there. And so it is a great thing to know if that's something that's important to you, of like also building up your success is saying like, I want a lactation consultant, and knowing why the interventions and your team matter.
Yeah, because for example, if you go to the pediatrician and your baby has lost more weight, then they're like, oh, you gotta supplement. But if you have the education, if you know that it's like, no, my milk hasn't come in yet, or the birth weight was wrong because of all the fluids that I had when I gave birth, you are also empowered to say, no, I know what I'm doing, and I know this is because of all of that intervention, I'm fine. And again, not get into the, oh my God, fear, anxiety, because obviously you want the best for your baby.
Yes.
But educate.
Yes. And you can be a better spokesperson when you can lean into your gut and be confident because you're empowered by your knowledge.
Yeah. Other things that I would say, support groups. Most probably your midwife practices are going to be the ones that are going to provide support groups. There are a lot of prenatal support groups. Mm-hmm. That's where a bunch of moms, all pregnant, go share their experiences. You know, you're creating community. You know, you don't have to do it by yourself. That maybe somebody's talking to somebody that you're like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. That's another good way to get community and education.
And the connections of having a positive birth experience, talking to those women and then being like, who's on your team? What did you do? And those are going to really help you stay positive. Protecting your mental state at all costs on every aspect is so important. So even if just like cheering you on and being happy and positive and supportive and not fearful of birth.
We are social human beings. We are meant to be in tribes, community. That's, I would say, vital too, because then you don't feel like you're doing this by yourself.
Yeah.
You can do it with a group of other women supporting each other.
Yeah. And then you also realize what's possible. I think guarding your choices, you don't have to share them with everyone, knowing what you feel comfortable with and sharing that only with trusted people, because it all matters. And so guard your decisions and know like you don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't have to share who your provider is, where you're having your baby, who's on your team until after or never. It's up to you. And so I feel like sometimes there's a lot of pressure. Maybe it feels like I have to tell everyone.
Yeah, no,
because the people love to tell the worst of the worst stories. And if that's in your head, that will dictate. Fear is a really powerful motivator. And so the more you can be empowered in what you're chasing versus
all the fear and all the bad stories. Yeah. With, I mean, it's good to know, but not to buy into, because my story doesn't have to be other people's story. We know that wherever we focus our energy, that's what we're going to attract. So if we are chasing all fear and all this stuff, then you'll probably end up with a very complicated birth. Mm-hmm. So like you're saying, get yourself empowered and like be around people that are supporting your vision, because it can be done.
So maybe a small recap for this very lengthy layout is starting with you. You have everything you need. You and your baby are the ones that will be birthing.
Yes.
You birth your baby is a part of that. You are the only one delivering your child. So that's your very baseline. Who else do you want to bring into that? Whose energy are you inviting in? Your partner, maybe a doula, which we highly recommend.
Yes.
Finding the right care team that is going to work alongside you and not talk at you. Mm-hmm. That's going to be your OB or your midwife, possible photographer, videographer, a prenatal chiropractor, pelvic floor therapist. And some of these connections could come through a midwife as well. Like you don't necessarily have to find everyone, a la carte, we'll call it. Yeah. But I'm sure you have people you love and recommend as far as midwives, doulas, and pelvic floor therapists.
Yep.
A masseuse. Never hurts.
No, I love massages.
Somebody that can offer breastfeeding education to step in soon after birth to set you up for success. And again, that will probably also come through your doula and midwife. So some of the people, there is some overlap.
Acupuncturists, we say. Yes. Acupuncturists.
Yes. And then realize you can change your mind. So if you're working with somebody and you've committed to them and suddenly you're finding out you're not aligned, or you've learned something, or there's a huge red flag, you can pivot. And I think it's important to know that. We started out saying you only need you and your baby. Some women just want to have an autonomous, completely free birth is when it's just you and your baby, maybe your partner, not a medical provider, I guess is what we'll say. But I know some people, it's like they were pushed to do that because nobody was supporting them or letting them have control. So like a lot of people, like even midwives, it's like, what would make you transfer me to the hospital? And they have things too that they'll let you out of their care. And so those are all just good things to go into, knowing that that's a possibility. And then where is your care? So either having a plan B or knowing what the backup is going to be helpful for your own mental state. The information provided in this podcast is not medical advice. It is anecdotal and for general knowledge and informational purposes only. It is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have. The use of this information is at your own risk. Don't forget the peanut deli sandwiches too.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Good seeing you.